Namaskar, Namaste, and welcome to everyone. It's wonderful to see all of the sisters and brothers gathered here today for this final session of our Hota conference that we're having, our Hota stream under the overall World Hindu Congress. We have our short times allotted to us, and you're here, our wonderful volunteers over there keeping time assiduously with Bell, going off with a couple of minutes to spare for everybody to wrap up, just so that you know that our speakers are not going over time when you hear the bell. It's just the case that they're giving their final piece of warning. In the short time that has been allotted to me, I wanted to share a few reflections on our World Hindu Congress itself and on our panel this evening. You know, Hindus in America, especially if you peruse, just read the blurb of our little forum here this evening. Hindus in America are alive during a time that is permeated with possibilities and opportunities. Many organizations are taking up this mantle. How do we Hindus proceed forward, wondering whether we are having the desired effect, and knowing that we are firmly in the public eye? As human beings, we have a multicultural global society to contribute to, a Sanskriti to preserve and integrate, and a Dharma to embody. Chanakya ji said, knowledge is poisonous when one is not adequately informed and not an expert. We need to be careful, as if we're not well informed about how to proceed and achieve equality for Dharma, we're actually harming the body of Dharma and not rejuvenating it. When our contemporary American society is suffering the vicissitudes of imbalance, our Sanskriti is being fetishized by both non-Hindus and Hindus alike. And when our own Hindus are relying on non-dharmic methods to achieve parity for Hindu Dharma, we are actually risking destroying the very credibility of Hindu Dharma, which was worked for by every single Hindu self-realized thinker since the Upanishads. When we're not experts on how to proceed, we need to turn to the experts. One such expert teaching, or Aptatuma Vachana, as we know when we're looking at epistemology, is found in our Shastras, and you all know this verse. Yash Shastra Vidhimutsrijya Vartate Kamakarata Nasa Siddhimavapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. A person who disregards the methodology of the Shastra and proceeds following their own desires and ideas, though having limited overall understanding, that person cannot achieve holistic success, nor happiness for oneself, nor for the Hindu community, nor society at large. And definitely, achieving the goal of moksha is out of the question. We cannot hope to know the methodology of the Shastras without 12 years of focused study, as is advocated for in our Upanishads, or without the guidance of an authoritative, qualified, Shrotriya, Brahmanishta Sadguru. Without this, we may become the poison that was referred to earlier. So how can a normal Hindu work to achieve the global impact to enhance the presence of Hindu Dharma in the USA and in the broader world? Thankfully, you don't have to spend 12 years studying it. We have these two nice summary shlokas. Our Dharma is replete with summaries. You should have a look through these summaries. One of them is a great one that Ramanujacharya often quoted. Alurvya sarva shastrani vicharya cha punah punah idamekam snishpannam dheyo narayana sada. Having stirred up the teachings of all the Shastras and contemplated again and again upon them, there is only one truth conveyed, that Bharat Brahman should be meditated upon always. Whatever we do, we must be conscious of the effect that our methods have on every single part of creation, Bharat Brahman's creation, even if we are the underprivileged. Even if we are the underprivileged, we have to be conscious of how our effects are being felt by the rest of Bharat Brahman's creation. Do you think that the British would have been able to have been overcome if we sought to counteract them by their methods, i.e. war and extermination? We were able to overcome them through following the highest of our own Hindu ideals, not mirror tactics of the British, which were infinitely lower at that time. The second shloka. Ashtadasha Puraneshu Vyasasya Vachanadvayam Paropakara Purnyaya Papaya Parapidanam. Throughout all of Vyasa's sayings in the 18 Puranas, there was one that was most important. And these two, he says that there are two important statements that Vyasa made in the 18 Puranas. One was that one achieves merit by serving others always, and one accrues demerit by harassing and oppressing other people. We are therefore, as Hindus, trying to strike that very delicate balance between both making sure our self-identification of Hindu is well respected and present on the world stage, present in the dialogues that are current in the United States today. But we do so, hopefully, remembering that everything is a part and parcel of Parabrahma, Paramatma, that their Lord that we worship in our temples, in our homes, through meditation, through yoga, whatever the way may be, that same very Lord is situated in your heart, my heart, and everybody else's heart. How do we proceed? How do we address imbalance if we too seek to add to that imbalance? So, it is with great pleasure, therefore, that I turn to our panel this evening. Because we need examples. We can't just go around just listening to Shastras all the time. We need concrete examples, and I don't think that we have any better examples than the ones seated on this panel. We have Hindus here who have been successful at achieving various goals. Quite explicitly, there are a spectrum of Hindus here too, representing those who may lie, and this is completely subjective, of course. You might think a certain person lies closer to your ideals, they find more resonance with your ideals, and some might not. But this is great, because this is what Hindus do. We're good with spectrum. So we might find people on this panel who lie within the heart of Dharma, and we might find other people who might be seen as orbiting the peripheries thereof. We do not have to agree with everything all the time, but the diverse unity that is Hindu Dharma needs to listen to them all, not seek to conquer them all and enforce a unity. And in the spirit of productive dialogue, we must formulate some good and probing questions. We need to look for those good examples to show our younger generation as replicable methods that can allow Hindus to embody the highest of Hindu ideals whilst holding firmly on to our foundational virtues. I say this by means of opening your minds to the thoughts that will be raised in this panel, and it therefore gives me great pleasure to introduce our panelists this evening. We start with Shri Gauranga. Shri Gauranga Maharaj is the director of the Govardhan Ecovillage, the only Bharatiya non-governmental organization to receive the United Nations Award in Sustainable Tourism from the UNWTO. He's also received the title of IGBC Fellow from the Indian Green Building Council. Shri Gauranga is the Global Duty Officer of ISKCON, Divisional Director of Devotee Care, Temple Development, Systems and Administration of ISKCON Temples Worldwide, and Trustee of the ISKCON Governing Body Commission College. He is an inspirational speaker and has spoken in conferences like TEDx and at corporates like Google, Microsoft, and Intel. It gives me very great pleasure to introduce to you Shri Gauranga Das Ji Maharaj.
Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaha. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Vishesha Shundavadi Pashchati Vishnu. Thank you, Sharan ji, and respected panelists and all the guests who are assembled here. I am going to speak about the story of the Govardhan Ecovillage, an effort to connect the message of the Gita with sustainability, rural development, and transforming the rural economies in India. the current state of migration is pretty pathetic. We have 138 people migrating from the villages to the cities every single day in the last 10 years. And you may have heard about what is known as ghost towns or ghost villages. 734 new ghost villages have been created in the Uttarakhand alone in the last 7 years. And what is the way in which we can stop these millions of people who are migrating from the villages to the cities? This is a very important question to tackle because out of a population of 1.3 billion in India, close to 820 million live in the villages. So if such a large chunk of population is in the villages, what are we doing to arrest this migration? And obviously they are migrating because they are not satisfied in their particular state. So, as we discussed about the concept of a smart village, we have a little different way of defining smart, where S stands for stability, M stands for morality, A stands for ability, R stands for respectability, and T for tradability. So I'm going to speak briefly on what's our idea of a smart village based on these principles. So let me begin with S for stability. And the Bhagavad Gita describes very beautifully this verse which is right there on the screen. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate prasanna chetasar hyashu buddhir parivatishtati. That the ultimate counteraction of all distress is the principle of satisfaction. So, unless one is satisfied, he cannot be stable. And therefore, when a rural person is satisfied, then he would like to stay in a village and he would like to experience stability. So when each individual farmer experiences stability, then the whole village is actually stable. So when there is this circle of satisfaction, this will actually arrest the rural-urban migration. I got initially connected to Gita because I found in my own college in IIT a student who was attempting to commit suicide, and the reason was he could not get the gold medal in the exam and he got a silver medal, and he was always used to getting the gold medal. His expectation was something and the reality was something else. And in the same college I had 4 or 5 of my friends who had failed in multiple subjects, but they were moving around the campus peacefully. And I asked them, you should be more distressed because you have failed in 4 or 5 subjects. How is it that you are peaceful? And they said to me, our philosophy is very simple. Entering the college is our job, taking us out of the college is college's job. So when we speak about stability, it is an experience of the heart, of the mind. And so, in the next slide, stability is a factor of satisfaction, and hence we define satisfaction as something which will be defined by the other 4 principles, which begins with M, which stands for morality. The foundation of moral values is the attitude. So when we speak about morality, there is an internal attitude and there is an external attitude. Internally, when the heart is clean, when the ecosystem and ecology of the heart is clean, and then naturally one cares about the external environment. And therefore, in my experience, I have seen progress is a factor of capability multiplied by commitment square. So one may be capable, one may have a team of people who are capable, but the actual progress will depend on how much is the commitment. And so here, when we speak about the core value of morality, what we began was sharing the message of the Gita with the villagers who were around our property. And we had extensive classes on the Gita, teaching them the message of the Gita. You'll be shocked to know that in some of those villages, some people were not even aware of who is Ram and who is Sita. And we are speaking about India. These are tribal villages, and then gradually as they got connected to the Gita, various festivals were being celebrated, there was a whole cultural rejuvenation. And as a result, apart from all the value education and everything, we also started sharing with them the importance of cleanliness. And so, in terms of environmental cleanliness, in our own property we have established what is known as soil biotechnology plant, which processes black and grey water through various kinds of hardened muram, soil bacteria and bioreactors, geophygus earthworms. It's a patented technology of IIT Mumbai. And then every year we are able to regenerate nearly 20 million liters of black and grey water which is used in the toilets. And this is known as fish fit water. And therefore we find that practically in India, unclean, unsafe water is one of the main causes of deaths. Especially more than 150 people die every day because of diarrhea. Then we go to the principle of A, which is ability. We try to improve the ability of the people around us, especially the farmers, through these 5 ways. First is empowerment of farmers. When the farmers are empowered, then they feel really at ease with their surroundings. Within the principle of empowerment of farmers is teaching them organic farming, which they have been doing it since time immemorial. But because of the propaganda over the last 40 years, the farmers have started thinking that without NPK farming they cannot survive. In fact, we started this in 2003, the current property. The last property we had was on the outskirts of Pune at a place called Dawn. You will not believe it, 25 farmer families staged a walkout after 3 years of organic farming training on the grounds that organic farming is impractical, it will never yield results. This is not we learned from our fathers and grandfathers. We are getting out of this place. And then we literally had to restart the entire project again. And therefore, these farmers are taught how to create cow dung and cow urine based fertilizers, how to actually do all kinds of farming completely based on organic techniques. Apart from the farmer, you have the wife of the farmer, so the women are taken care of. Along with the women, you have the healthcare facilities. So along with Bhaktivedanta Hospital, we have facilities for actually taking care of the health camps. We have small children who are actually given very first class facilities for primary health care. Along with that, you have the big problem of landless farmers. So we set up nice shops for them and help them understand that they have to take responsibility by learning all these various skills. So we have a beautiful skill development center where we train them in more than 71 trades over a period of 1 year's time. And therefore this skill development of tribal youth has really attracted a lot of youth, and the qualification for entering this skill development program is you have to be a 10th standard fail. Only then you can actually enter. Then you have this education in the rural schools. And so we have the next element, which is respectability. How to acknowledge the contribution of the farmers and how to enhance the value and respect to Mother Earth. One of the key areas is that most people in India and Indian parents do not want their children to be farmer, teacher or soldier, although these are very crucial roles. So even if they make money, still if they are not sufficiently respected, then nobody wants to remain as a farmer. And therefore, we have created various ways by which farmers get opportunities to share their knowledge with others, people come and learn from them, and the farmers are given a certain level of dignity and respect for what they are doing. They are also taught how to respect Mother Earth, and therefore green buildings have been promoted. And as part of these green buildings, we have compressed stabilized earth blocks and cob houses, where practically compared to a regular mud and brick wall with plaster and paint which uses 72 megajoules per kilogram of embodied energy, a compressed stabilized earth block wall, it only utilizes 0.275 megajoules per kilogram. That is the massive saving in terms of embodied energy. This kind of respectability towards Mother Earth has also earned the respect of the worldwide community, including of the UN. And so also respectability goes towards caring for resources including water. We began with doing a massive hydrogeological survey, and so what you see there in that photo is the biggest rainwater harvesting tank in the whole of Palghar district which we have created, which has more than 10 million liters of water. And along with that, we have what is known as the tradability. So, S, M, A, R and T. Many times we only focus on T, which is tradability, but this comes only when all the other things are taken care. So we have created what is known as a Haribo brand, where we have facilitated farmers produce, transporting to a factory, taking care of the processing and then selling in the market. This is a 5,000 square feet plant we have set up in Bhiwandi. And then we have state-of-the-art method to process all of this. And these are the various products which we are trying to sell. For many of you who may not be aware, this is the kind of food adulteration which is possible, especially in India, where in milk you have chalk powder, soap powder, urea. In coriander powder you have horse dung, cow dung. Cow dung is great, worshipable, but not in coriander powder. You have all kinds of things in honey and edible oils. These are the kind of adulterants. So we are trying to produce the pure food and distribute that pure food. And so, with the help of this, we want to create a smart village revolution. S for stability, M for morality, A for ability, R for respectability, T for tradability. Let's all get together and try to transform the 700,000 villages in India. And if we all come together, we can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shri Gauranga, Shri Maharaj. In case you missed it earlier, the blurb for this conference was over the course of Hindu history. The noble Hindus emerged from the Hindu community that lived the values of Hindu Dharma with such vigor and passion to think collectively and act valiantly. In this session, we are getting inspired by these phenomenal ideas that create a groundswell for social change and sustainability. I think for change and sustainability, this is one of the best examples we have, so we're very deeply grateful to Shri Gauranga Ji Maharaji for giving us a talk on what this Vedic smart village is. You have a video? You have a video. So I think the video, which is 1 minute, will be played, which is about Govardhan Ecovillage. Let's have a look.
Rampant illiteracy.
Sustainability, eh? This Govardhan Ecovillage is sustainable. Little technical hitch over there is going to be solved soon.
Rampant illiteracy, malnutrition, and lack of it.
It was hiding. There. So we will see the video now.
Infrastructure. This is the story of Wada, one of India's most backward tribal areas. However, since 2010, ecotourism has become a lifeline for this region. Govardhan Ecovillage's sustainable development model, which is based on harmony of the self, the environment, and the divine, has helped employ over 300 tribal families. More than 60,000 tribals have been provided free medical care. 30,000 free meals are provided to school children every day. Over 60 bulwarks have been installed. More than 300 families received training in organic farming. Govardhan Ecovillage has transformed the lives of the most deprived communities in the world.
A lovely introduction, and it was the reason for our trip. We actually took a trip with Georgetown University students to visit the Ecovillage, to learn about how Hindus were going for change. In this line, we turn to our second speaker, Shri Sanjay Tripathi, who is the Executive Director for the Pacific region of the HSS, United States. Shri Sanjay Tripathi is an IT professional with over 25 years of experience. He has interest in pharma manufacturing, and he is the Director of Pharma Nova Healthcare in Ghana. He is an advisor to Dharma Civilization Foundation, an initiative in the academic domain in mainstream US universities towards Hindu Dharma. He is the lead community coordinator for the California textbook movement and has been involved with CA textbook issues since 2005, holding the program lead for CA textbook reform at the Hindu Community Institute. Today, he is talking to us about the California textbook correction movement by Hindu community, a case study. Please welcome Shri Sanjay Tripathi.
We'll watch a video first. Now stay with me. About 2 minutes video.
And I'm an 8th grader at Thomas Hart Middle School. 6th grade was the first time I was to learn anything about my culture in school, so at first I was excited. However, I was surprised to see that the lesson was so short and had nothing I needed to be of my religion or heritage. Because the caste system was mentioned so many times in our textbook, our teacher created a simulation in our class in which we were put into the 4 major caste groups. Each student was given a worksheet to complete by the end of the period, but a higher caste could take an advantage of the lower caste, and the lower caste would be forced to give answers to them. By the end of the period, a majority of the class was complaining about how unfair this was and how cruel the Hindu system was. In fact, I'd never even known what my caste was until my textbook brought it up, as my parents and relatives didn't render it even important for my cultural learning. I have many Hindu friends, and I don't know any of their castes. However, my classmates and teachers think that we Hindus still believe in primitive and unjust practices. The standards for evaluating history social science clearly state their purpose to enable all students to become aware and accepting of religious diversity, while being allowed to remain secure in any religious beliefs they may already have. But the experience I had clearly shows that my class was not helped to become aware or accepting of my heritage, nor was I allowed to remain secure in my beliefs. I don't want my friends to look down upon me and my culture because of my textbook. It's unfair. We know that social hierarchies have existed in all societies, so why is Hinduism singled out in such negative portrayal? What I ask is for fairness and dignity. Is that too much to ask for? I'm asking for the textbooks to focus on the positive aspects of Hinduism, like dance and music and philosophy, and not focus on only the negative. Thank you.
Thank you. on the with the slides. So this is one of the hundreds of children who testified in front of California Department of Education in Sacramento, and it's part of a Dignity for Hinduism movement during almost last 4.5 years. So what exactly is California textbook issue? It's about HSS, History and Social Science textbook, what's being taught in mostly from 6th grade to 12th grade, largely 6th, 7th, and 8th, 9th, and some parts of 11th. So just giving a perspective, only in California, almost 1 million kids, almost 920,000 kids, students, they are going through the same world history textbook each year. Considering that most of these publishers, book publishers, they are nationwide, and some are international, the real impact each year is at least more than 10 million students are going the same books. I do not have much time to explain a lot of stuff, so I'll just explain a few examples that you will understand in the next 10 minutes or so. So I'll show a few of the visuals. So this is an image from the 6th grade history textbook depicting Christianity. It is a famous painting of Jesus named Last Supper by Vinci. It's accompanied by the very thought-provoking question: why did Jesus tell parables? This picture paints Christianity in textbooks. Move to the next slide. This is a picture depicting Islam. The beautiful blue mosque of Istanbul celebrating Islam in its grandeur, accompanied by the question, why did Muslims create such elaborate structures? We are happy that such portrayals of these religions which follows California law too. So, what would you expect for Hinduism? Magnificent temples, yoga, dance, music, let's see. Next slide. A picture of pig, trash all around, and a woman possibly collecting garbage. This they say represents Hinduism. So how did all of this start? Next slide. The content on Hinduism in textbooks, they have been traditionally unfair for Hindus, as they were mostly written by scholars who were either very insensitive or against Hinduism. Since 1996, Christians, Jews and Muslims, they have been giving changes and all have been accepted without much question. In 2005, Hindu community for the first time got an opportunity to suggest correction, but suddenly came with it the opposition from many quarters. Hindus did not have academics who could support them at that time. Also, when the visceral campaign was launched, Hindus were not able to effectively counter it because the opposition was very fierce and powerful. Hindus were termed as fanatics and fundamentalists. They started seeing themselves as helpless. This opposition, in fact, has increased ever since. The same people we saw yesterday protesting against World Hindu Congress too. Next one. Next one. The textbooks, they are reviewed every 6 months. And the process started again in 2014 for the new book adoption this month, 2018 fall. Suddenly, a few academics under the name of SAFG, South Asia Faculty Group, and their allies, South Asia History for All, wrote alarmist letters to the CDE, put them in panic and forced them to erase India from 6th grade books. It was driven by Hindu-phobic academics like Sharan, Robert Goldman, Shri, Lawrence Cohen, and others. They wanted to remove the word India and Hinduism from the real textbook itself. They also wanted to remove the contribution of so-called lower caste sages of Hindu Dharma, which had been added at the instance of Hindu community. Shocking part was that their changes were initially accepted. If you see the statistics, 76 was submitted and 62 edits were accepted. So if you go to the the history of it, you will find out how many edits were submitted and how many were accepted. Community counted very vigorously. Community wrote thousands of letters and spoke at the CDE. 25,000 signatures came within a week from an online petition by scholars for people. Eventually, the department had to conduct a special hearing, and eventually India and Hinduism were restored in the world. Next one. The challenge in front of the community was immense, but the community came together, intensified the Duty for Hinduism campaign. Many students and parents, community leaders and teachers across California were inspired to join. Thousands spoke up through testimonials, signature campaigns and petitions. So, next one. So, what all went into the movement? The movement had many dimensions, and I will just mention only a few of them over here. A civic engagement with the government agencies was required so that Hindu community could get some credibility for its demands, and also so that we become insiders to the process and do not remain always outsiders. Many Hindu community leaders and teachers applied, and for the first time got selected in the formal roles as members of review panel for textbooks. Alliance with many other communities such as Asian Pacific Islanders, African Americans, Jewish groups were ensured. In 2005 and 6 time frame, there was only one Hindu academic supporting us. By 2015, there were more than 40 academics, 46 exactly, from the humanities and social science department from mainstream US universities who came around to support Hindu community. Protests, petitions, signature campaigns were launched and thousands made themselves heard. Hindu-phobic groups were effectively countered through scholarly rebuttals. Great effort was put in to unite all stakeholders. Next one. So, the overall impact was very positive. The first time in the history of California, in 2017, 9th November last year, 2 Hindu-phobic textbooks were by a very important publisher were rejected by the Department of Education. This was for the first time that Hindu-phobia in textbook was acknowledged by a government agency. Hindu-phobic groups launched massive attack but were effectively countered. Eventually, many publishers who feared rejections, they improved their content by themselves. But a lot more needs to be done. A lot more. In fact, the after effects of the state process are very interesting. Now that it has gone to the next level of the state, the district level adoption, the district level process has become in some districts, and the news is very interesting. A few examples. In one small district, McGraw-Hill, one of the publishers, was asked by the district to add fair contents at this stage. That district's meeting was led by a woman who was expecting, and in fact on the last day of hearing she went into the neighborhood. In another school district, McGraw-Hill was rejected at the beginning of pilot program itself for 6th and 7th grade. So what happened in 2005 and 6 and last 3 years? Next slide. Michael Ritchell, in 2005 we all know, he wrote a very alarmist letter, CD panics, Hindu-phobic forces attacked Hindu community. Hindu community felt helpless and could not respond effectively. What happened last year and now? Hindu community comes together. Hindus for the first time selected to review, they selected the review panels for CDE. 2 Hindu-phobic books get rejected for the first time. And Michael Ritchell and company wrote a letter again on 6th of November, but that letter gets rejected and goes to the dustbin. So, just summarize the last slide. Next one. Going forward. With all of this, do not think that this movement is all over. Rather, this is just the beginning, and the fight will be seen again and again. The state has adopted a few books, they're positive, now through grassroots movements, books that are relatively good, they are being pushed in each district. Teachers, they have to be trained and sensitized to teach Hindu Dharma positively, properly. Supplementary materials that teachers use also needs to be developed. A few school districts are already asking for it. More Hindus need to be in the decision making at all levels so that good books can be chosen. Also need to continue to build key alliances with all other communities. But although this has been a great success that has been achieved by the community coming together, a lot more needs to be done. Lastly, the standards and the framework on which the textbooks are written, they need a complete overhaul. This would again need the whole community to come together, and as the theme of Kota conference is Sanjay Sakti Kali Yuga, we all have to come together, and we know if we all come together we can achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tripathi ji. And I really hope that as Hindus are hearing things now, in order to address imbalances, it's also important that we have people working, we come together, but once we come together, we actually do something. And when I say do something, we are in Kali Yuga. Dashansa danena dhanam punati. It is only by giving 10% of our earnings away to charitable projects can our own earnings be considered clean and pure. So, if we're spending it only on our holidays or on selfish things, and we don't actually spend on issues that have consequences for our students, then we're doing something a little bit wrong. Please keep giving to temples, please keep supporting your temples, but also think about the money that would lead us downwards, lead us into circles, lead us into negative tendencies, and try to use some of that money to actually affect change. As a person working in higher education, I have to spend a lot of my time correcting misinformation about Hindu Dharma that our students from across all of the states of the US get. So I'm hoping basically that you're going to make my job easier by donating to good causes like this. So, as you may remember in the beginning, I talked about a spectrum of people that are working, and I'm sure if you've remembered what our Sohini-ji has said, there is an online form that you can fill in to submit questions. I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions for our next speaker because he is part of our panel and is therefore a very big success in the US. Please therefore welcome Shri Dosapati ji, who is a US-based activist with several successes, forcing Andhra Pradesh CM in 2007 to ban conversions inside Hindu temples, and bringing to attention the plight of backward caste minor girls in West Bengal being kidnapped and thrown into sexual slavery. He has done many other things which are worthy of note, and today he is presented on Hindu activism in America and a model to be replicated across the world. Please therefore, please welcome Shri Dosapati.
Namaste everybody. Before we start the presentation, there is a video I request you to watch to give a glimpse of the activism that has been happening since from around 2007 to 2014 until Narendra Modi ji came into the picture. Next slide, please show the video. Oh, okay, can you hear me better? Okay, thank you. This is in Chicago in 2007 against the conversions happening right inside the temples by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister, Evangelist Chief Minister. This is the 2007 protest against Sonia Gandhi. This is a full-page ad we took on New York Times in 2007, for which we were sued for $100 million and $30 million. My wife is also not even spared, along with many activists. And the protest, this is the parades, India Day parades exposing the Kashmiri Hindu situation and the corruption going on. I don't know if anybody, many knows that Gandhiji is a great spokesperson against evangelical conversions in India. This is the talks by Francois Gautier for Hindu Holocaust Museums. We had the talk. This is the electronic voting machine paper trail because of the fraud going on in the election voting machines in India. Volume the volume, please. Can you increase the volume? This is working with the mainstream groups in the United States and Jankiism. This is when Wharton University dropped Narendra Modi ji from the keynote speech because of some leftist, like the way that happened recently, yesterday I think, some leftist protested and they just dropped Narendra Modi ji from the keynote. This is the rally we organized for Trump, bringing it to the first time in the United States, bringing all ethnic groups in the United States supporting Trump. Okay. So, the theme of this speech is how we in India can make a difference. That's what we can, and even being here, we can make a difference in the United States, or we can make it in India. But I want to go through the journey I went through, starting from 2007. I'm from Andhra Pradesh, and at that time I was hearing about so many things after the UPA government came into picture, the conversions and the attack on Hindu temples, the terrorist attacks, and that was the time I heard in 2007 the Y.S. Rajshekhar Reddy, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, was coming to Chicago. This was around I think May or some time frame. And this man is he's an evangelist, he's a Christian, he's an evangelist, and he's working with the Christian missionary organizations, openly encouraging conversions right inside the temple. While you are in the Garbhagruha, they will give you the pamphlets and you have your gods are false gods. So we had engaged in a very big campaign. There are 400 people. I have Prasad Elmati from Chicago who worked with me very closely. And given the momentum of the movement, the chief minister has banned the conversions in the temple within a mile range before he came, because he wants investments in this country for his state. And he saw the bad publicity he is getting, and he banned the conversions, and because of the momentum. And we came in and we met with him, and so many activities happened after that. That was in May, like 2007, October, there is a Mahatma Gandhi International Day in the United Nations. And guess who is going to be speaking at that? Sonia Gandhi, as if she is going to represent the values of Mahatma Gandhi. So we reached out to the Congress party and said, choose somebody in Congress party itself who can be a better representative. Can you imagine the Sikh people, 3,000 people were murdered in the daylight and murdered after the Indira Gandhi was assassinated. And she has selected that as the minister in the UPA government, and she's talking about human rights. And the terrorist organizations which are bombing the temples in India, and one of the ministers or one of the Congress leaders was saying that this organization, Simi organization, is a social organization. That is an organization that is causing a terrorism organization. And we said this is not the right person, and then they called us fundamentalist and all that. So we had a big protest in the United Nations, and we took a full page ad exposing every single thing about her. Full page ad in New York Times. We paid many thousands of dollars and people supported. And that was a shocker to the Congress party at the peak of the power in 2007. And so they want to silence us. So all I worked with closely with Narayan Kataria ji and Sanjay here and many other people. And then they sued us for $100 million. And then that, as if that is not enough, they sued us for $30 million. Obviously, First Amendment right is so good in this country. But it is an intimidation. I mean, you can be facing that you can lose everything you have. But God, 2 minutes. Okay, there is no way I can finish this thing. Then it is also the protest against. And I want to talk about the electronic voting machines after 2009. There were so much allegations of fraud going on in electronic voting machines. And that is when I realized that through your presentation, most of the countries in Europe and even in the United States, they don't use just electronic voting. They have paper trail. The least they have is a paper trail. So there is a record of who voted for whom. And so I took the best agents from around the world, and we have made a change. And today we have paper trail, and 2019 elections will be held most likely throughout the country with a paper trail for a credible elections. And I can say that without our involvement, critical involvement, this simply would not have happened. So, and also the West Bengal, the sexual slavery of the, when Narendra Modi is dropping, and the sexual slavery, the kidnapping of the Hindu girls in West Bengal districts, with small groups of people in United States across the cities. What we have done is we have just did small protest, took out the picture, went on Twitter, and we were trending number 3 worldwide, number 1 in India, and that caused the nationwide media attention in India for what is happening to the girls, in Hindu girls in West Bengal. So the point I'm trying to make is, even small things and with small number of groups, and with what we need is a passion, we can make a difference in many different ways. And also the Trump thing. Maybe it's not more of a pro-Trump, and of course I'm supporting Trump against anti-establishment, but I'm also concerned about Clinton's anti-India stand. They have a very strong record of anti-India stand, and we wanted to support, and that is when we brought in for the first time, and Trump also actually acknowledged that to bring, and we were covered in the national media as well. I want to go quickly, what is needed, and the purpose of this is, what is needed for activism, that you have to have a passion and be so. So, I have a social anxiety before I started this. I cannot even come and speak in a group of 10 people. I have childhood issues, health issues and all. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Who teaches a mother teaches a mother to save her child from danger? Or who would take credit for helping his parents? So we need to think of the country as a mother, and work for, and we will be able to make a change no matter where we are, however small. You can make next slide quickly. Next slide. So the other thing is we need to be recognizing is Bharat leaders are sensitive about the opinions of the West and NRI community. Most of the anti-Hindu and adharmic activities against Bharat are originating in the West, and most of the NGOs and all these Break India forces are coming outside India. So we can be an instrument in forcing this organization, just like the way they did for the California textbook cases. They have formed a strong group and they could counter it. And then there is a critical mass of Hindus in the West that can become an effective force of change for Bharat and Hinduism. Next slide, last one. Now, one of the things you need to be watching out is, most of our NRI Hindus, not the people who are Hindu-centric and who want to do activists on this, but there are most of a large community, they're more interested in their own welfare, their children's welfare. You talk to them, which grade school their child went to, they will talk, not which great activity they have taken. Every conversation you get. Then most of these organizations energies are spent in Bollywood type activities. I mean, even in Telugu, Andhra Pradesh, they have every community group, every statewide, they converted into 2 states. They have Tana, Ata, Bata, Tata, they have all kinds of organizations based on they are spending millions of dollars and energies rather than, none of the children care for their caste or care for their, 50% of the children are marrying outside the community. And these people are crazy and go nuts with this organization going egotistic, which caste group is this, and spending their energies rather than spending betterment of their own children. And that is where we need to spend energies on. Then the next one is, never underestimate the power of pen and passion, and overcome the fear of taking activism, and don't forget, overcome the pettiness of who will take credit. We are going to die. Who's going to remember your name? Big people names are not remembered. 20 years after you die, your children can't care for you. So work for your country and do something good for the nation and for your people. Thank you very much.
Very quickly, as we have no time is reduced for our last speaker, I want to make sure that he has his time. He deserves a lot of time, actually. Shri Balabhadra Ji Benny J. Tillman is the president of the Vedic Friends Association. He's a direct disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON. Balabhadra Das joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1973 in Atlanta and has since traveled extensively in Bharat and other parts of the world, practicing and teaching the ancient Vedic philosophy. Shri Balabhadra Das Ji's specialization is engaging the youth in dharmic activities in many of its dimensions. He is eager to work with the like-minded people and organizations in serving their socio-spiritual needs. The title for his talk today is Unifying Our Efforts for Maximum Social, Cultural, and Spiritual Impact. We heard one version of what that might look like. It might be good to hear what another version looks like. And I hope that if you've had any questions come up in your mind, we are Hindus. We are used to Purva Pakshas, we're used to the Siddhartha Paksha. So if there are any questions that you have regarding, I heard that there was a gentleman in the audience who raised his voice, it is understandable. I hope that you're able to formulate a question and submit it to us using the Slido, and then we will definitely hear that. Can I introduce you therefore, Shri Balabhadra Das Ji, for our final presentation.
So you know I have a timer, so I'll pass it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste. Namaste Saraswati Devi Govardhan Pacharni Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschatya. There's one verse that I want to share that encapsulates what I feel this event is all about. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Namishe Nimisha Shetre Vishaya Sonakadeya Shatram Swargaya Lokaya Sahasra Samam Asata. Once in a holy place called Chicago. Did you get that? Once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages, headed by the sage Shonaka, assembled to perform a great thousand-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. The great sages, now this is a statement by my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada in his purport to that verse. Two statements, very short. The great sages are always anxious to do good to the people in general. Do you agree? Is that not the purpose of this gathering? Yes. Second statement. Forgetful men do not know the right path for peace and prosperity. However, the sages know it well, and therefore, for the good of all men, they are always anxious to perform acts which may bring about peace in the world. And I think that really is the goal of this wonderful event. And I have to really think about it carefully because there's so much information that's been passed out in the last 2 days. It's almost like overwhelming, but it's for the benefit of society. And I just want to reflect a little bit on my own past because part of my beginning in Krishna consciousness started in Chicago in 1974 when I met my spiritual master and received initiation. It was very interesting because sometimes people ask me, so well, how did you become a Hare Krishna from being a professional entertainer and musician in Atlanta in the 60s and 70s? And I have a very interesting answer which I hope you can appreciate. It's a little bit emotional. So my answer is, 3 people died in my life in 2 years. And you might say, well, who are those 3 people? Some friends from high school or girlfriend? I said, no, my mother, my father, and my oldest brother within 2 years died. So my world was shaking. I was really concerned, what is the purpose of this life? There's so much tragedy happening so quickly. So that's when I began my journey on the path of Vedic Dharma. I started out by following Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Transcendental Meditation, seeking knowledge. I met him in Atlanta in 1970, and I heard his philosophy, but it didn't really satisfy my desires, my search. Then I was fortunate to meet the Hare Krishna devotees in 1972 and received a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. And then in 1974, I became a disciple of Srila Prabhupada here in Chicago. Part of our tradition is that when you become a disciple, you have to beg for what we call Guru Dakshina. You know that term, Guru Dakshina. I had to go beg Guru Dakshina on State Street, downtown Chicago, in 1974. Now, it must have looked very interesting because there were not very many African American Hare Krishnas at that time. Not very many. So I'm going store to store, person to person, and I'm saying to them, the reason I'm telling you this is because I began the process of learning how to present our Vedic Dharmic culture in an interesting, short, and concise way, especially if you like on the streets of Chicago. So I said to the people, I just received a blessing from my teacher, terms that they can understand. Guru, they didn't know. Indian culture, they didn't know. I received the blessing from my teacher. As part of my tradition, you have to give a gift to your teacher. Just like when you go to school, you give an apple to your teacher. Oh, I can understand that. No problem. So I'm asking you to give some little small contribution so I can give something to my teacher. I was shocked how people were so enthusiastic to help on a simple explanation like that. So one thing that we have to be careful of in presenting our Vedic philosophy, and this is one of the challenges, is taking this very vast philosophy. I heard when I first got involved that there's so many Vedic literatures, they can fill up a warehouse. So many. And how do you take all of this vast knowledge and make it accessible to the people in general? I was preparing for this talk and I was thinking about the topic, Sanjay, Shakti, Kali. So I looked on a website, Shri Ravi Shankar's website, and this is a very nice explanation. It is said, Sanjay, Shakti, Kali Yuga, only unity has power in this era. In Kali Yuga, the power is in the team. You need to function as a group. When many bristles are put together to make a broom, they are far more effective in sweeping than they would have been individually. The prerequisites for growth are patience, perseverance, clarity of purpose, and flexibility to accommodate errors. You must also have a sense of respect for all team members, learn from the past, have a vision for the future, and sustain enthusiasm. So this is very impressive and encouraging to me. And I just wanted to, I have a couple minutes, I wanted to share something with you with respect to going forward, what we can do, and the organization that I'm part of. The organization that I'm part of is called the Vedic Friends Association. I'm actually the executive president. But in my journey in the Vedic philosophy and culture, I was looking for a vehicle that I could present this culture in a very broad, dynamic way. Of course, being a member of the ISKCON, we have our own approach to preaching the philosophy. But I was thinking, how could we do some other activities which may not be necessarily from the organization itself? So I was looking for that model, that vehicle. I actually did some work in the interfaith communities for about 15 years. Then I came across Vedic Friends Association. And specifically what I wanted to point out here is that this group has done some tremendous work for many, many years. And I wanted to put on the spot two of its founding members. That's, many of you know, Stephen Knapp, Shinandananda, please stand. I want to request you to please come and join me here on stage for a minute. Please come. And also, another one of the founding members is a very good friend, Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindra Rishi. My thought was, what is our unique selling point or proposition? Just in the corporate world, they say like that. Unique selling proposition for Vedic Friends. It's these persons, Jeffrey, Stephen, and unfortunately David Frawley is in another session, so he couldn't come. But they represent, the three of us right now, plus David, we are non-Indian born Hindus. And the sacrifice that they have made to correlate this philosophy, this culture, this history, deserves our respect. So I wanted to give them a couple of minutes. I think I have maybe 2 minutes. Okay, so I'll give each one of them a minute just to speak for a second. They deserve that. They have done this work for many, many years for our community. So let's welcome them for a minute.
Namaste. And one of the reasons why we put together the Vedic Friends Association years ago was because many of us, like Jeffrey, myself, David Frawley, Michael Primo, a number of other people had already been successful in delivering the Vedic knowledge in different ways to different people. So why don't we get together and form a team by which we can help promote each other, help support each other, because oftentimes being a writer is a lonely business. You don't know where the books are going, you don't know who's reading them, and fortunately when I come to conferences like this, there's so many people that know me and I'm still learning who they are. So. But the point of it was we put together a journal. We were coming up with a monthly journal so that students could approach any one of us and have their questions answered. And also we put together a book called Vedic Culture, the difference it can make in your life, where each of the people in the Vedic Friends, prominent people, could put together an article on their area of expertise, which included Michael Primo, Subhash Kar, definitely David Frawley, Jeffrey Armstrong, myself, and a few others, so that we could each expand on where we came from and how Vedic culture has so many disciplines by which you can use to reach your highest potential, whether it's healthily, mentally, emotionally, and ultimately spiritually. So this is one of the things we've done, and which is still a book that's available today. Anybody can go on Amazon, look up Vedic culture, the difference it can make in your life. And so these are some of the ways that we've tried to present Vedic culture so that people, even Indian youth, let's face it, a lot of the Indian youth do not realize the potential that Vedic culture has to offer. So this is one of the reasons why we're, have worked in the way that we've done. Plus I've written my own books, but all in the same line of thought of trying to help people understand the many dimensions and many possibilities that Vedic culture has to offer all of us. Thank you.
I think there used to be a television show called 8 O'Clock. First of all, pronouns to all of you. We believe, and I'm sure that you do too, that this gathering of so many diverse individuals is a representation of the Vedic approach to our longer journey of many lives, and represents and respects the fact that we mean when we say namaste, that each one of us is a divine being on a very epic journey. But so is everyone. The fact that we know that allows us an opportunity to become ambassadors of a more patient view, of a longer view of life, of a less fear-based and a more loving view of life, and of a respect that goes to all living entities. We all know this in theory, so the Vedic Friends Association has been formed to start creating ambassadors of these viewpoints, irrespective of what your particular lineage or tradition within the Vedic fold might be, because that diversity is our strength. But coming together and learning how to speak the fundamental principles of the Vedic philosophy in a consistent way will cure all of these problems that have arisen by the mischief of colonization or by people speaking in second languages and third languages. It's now time to learn to use the English language in the cultures where it's spoken to represent the truths of the Vedic culture in a clear and consistent way. The more we know how to do that, and our children, the children of the Hindu community, as well as all of the new yogis that are coming in around the world, there's about 100 million right now, of new Vedic practitioners and followers. they need to be brought in such a way that they feel the consistency of what we have in common and keep their diversity and individuality, which is what was the intention of this great project. VFA is dedicated to this. I know you are also. So please work together with us in creating Vedic ambassadors who go throughout the world and speak in a reasonable way.
Thank you, everyone. Just to let you know, next year in Atlanta, we're going to have a signature event similar to this. We'll keep you informed next year in Atlanta. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Balabhadra. This has been a very great panel to chair. It has been definitely full of the spice of life that we all seek out. One of the messages that are coming loud and clear, I think, is that there are many, many wheels working together for Dharma here. Sometimes there is a tendency to go off in one direction as a unicycle, but if we can come together, we can definitely put enough wheels on this Dharma Rath to bring Jagannath Bhagavan to everybody, wherever they need him. So, let us thank our panelists with a big round of applause. We do have 8 questions. Unfortunately, we have 0 time. I will read one. The 2 most popular questions were both, how can the California textbook movement be taken to other states of the United States? And how can we replicate the Ecovillage in other countries? Would it work in North America? I hope that those people who would like to ask those questions can ask them directly to Tripathi ji and to Shri Gauranga Bharat once they've exited the stage. But unfortunately, we can't entertain them now. For now, can I ask everybody? We will recite, as this is our last one for the day, the final mantra before we go. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.